சரி சரி வாங்க வாங்க இது வாங்க வாங்க ஓஹோ இங்கே வரலையா சரி பக்கம் சொன்னீங்க சரி சரி Then we're ready. Ready. You can bring him here to the table.
To penetrate and dissipate clouds of darkness, the general mind must be strengthened by education, said Thomas Jefferson. Good morning. I welcome you all to this scholarly meet. May I request the dignitaries to move on to the dais. Prayer is the better half of study, said Martin Luther. To God be the glory, great things He hath done. Let us exalt God's name through a song. Assistant Professor of English, to welcome the gallery.
Morning greetings to everyone. I'm overwhelmed to express my glad welcome to each and every one of the delegates present here. I would like to recall the crux of a conference, the quintessential social values like justice, freedom, respect, community, and responsibility, and the major sustainable development goals like people, planet, prosperity, peace, and partnership for the well-being of the larger community, especially the rational use of natural resources as we begin the deliberations of the day. I am happy to welcome our beloved heads, Dr. S. Shobana and Dr. Suresh Reddy, on this auspicious occasion, who were instrumental in making this fruitful academic exercise possible. Welcome you, ma'am. A special word of welcome to our Shift 2 coordinator, Dr. C. Dhanapal, for his presence and motivation. Welcome you, sir. On behalf of the college management and the organizing committee, I'm delighted to welcome our chief guest, who is a well-recognized person in the literary circle and a champion of the downtrodden. Dr. T. Marks is a professor in the Department of English, Pondicherry University, with 20 years of teaching experience. His areas of specialization include drama, comparative literature, subaltern studies, and translation. He has published more than 14 books in English and 2 books in Tamil. He has several publications in international and national peer-reviewed journals. Sir has successfully guided 4 PhD scholars and organized 6 conferences. I welcome you, sir. I extend a cordial welcome to all my friends of the teaching fraternity and research scholars whose presence has made this event brilliant. As Emily Dickinson says, the soul should always stand ajar, ready to welcome the ecstatic experience. We, the Hebrew English family, are eager to welcome the experience of an enlightenment by our erudite speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for your warm words. May I call upon Dr. C. Dhanapal, Dean of Training and Placement, to honor our chief guest, Dr. T. Marks, Professor of English, Pondicherry University, with a memento, and Dr. K. Shanti, Associate Professor of English, Associate Dean of Arts, with a shawl as a token of our love. Thank you, sirs and ma'am. It is an honor to have an eminent scholar, thinker, bilingual writer amidst us. His very name resonates his intellect. To compliment Esther Rosalind ma'am, I just like to add some more words about our chief guest. Sir is an editorial assistant for the International Journal of South Asian Studies. He is an editorial board member of Literary Innovations and International Literary Journal. He is an associate editor for Manas, a literary journal, and Sir has designed the syllabi for media studies, Dalit literature, culture, contemporary literature and culture, visual culture and communication, and disability studies. Sir has translated Poomani's Piragu into and then in English, and it is published by Emerald Publishers, Chennai. And Sir has recently translated Yalan Adi's poem into English. Sir, it is indeed a privilege to listen to you. The stage is all yours.
Respected head of the Department of English, Bishop Peter College, and my long-time friend, Professor Shobana, my colleagues from the Department of English of this reputed institution, scholars, and my own students and faculty here. Mr. Benedict, Mr. Sam, and a few more familiar faces are here. Very good morning to you all. Indeed, it's my pleasure to be here this morning to meet you all and to speak about social values and sustainable development. Part of all literary discourses. Later I came to know that it has been organized by more than 2 departments and also collaborated with the journal Bodhi. Then I called and asked Madam whether it is pure literature audience or somebody else will be there. Then Madam said it's a parallel kind of sessions and Tamil resource persons will be addressing Tamil scholars and we will be addressing our own teachers. So I have somehow organized my speech accordingly. I thought students and scholars also would be here, but it is a pure teachers team. So I'll modify my speech accordingly. I'll try to reach the students, the teacher community. Basic problem with sustainable development, or why should we discuss sustainable development today? Almost 50 years after it was originally involved in the United Nations, when the Norwegian Prime Minister for the first time used the very term sustainable development, which is not something very new, but it is a slight nomenclature revolution by the Norwegian Prime Minister, as it is the case with all other key terms that we have been using for the last 5 decades or 4 decades. Especially in the post-1970s, the post-1980s, we have been coming across a lot of key terms related to social values, ethics, justice, social justice, sustainable development, ecological degradation, protection of environment, and all kinds of things. So these are all very, if you critically look at these things, these key terms and the evolution of these key terms or the evolution of these concepts, perhaps you can find out that these are all some kind of Western nomenclature changes, a kind of costume changes that they have been involved in, and they successfully subdued the non-Western nations with these key terms, and continuously they are feeding us with all kinds of things. But then sustainable development has been there. It's not just a 1980 concept. It's not just a post-1980 concept. It's not just it came into vogue after the United Nations resolution or anything like that. Yeah, this kind of a concept, though the phrase was not there, the concept sustainable development has been there ever since mankind was there. So this, the very Genesis part of the Holy Bible talks about sustainable development. If you talk about the creation of this world, wherein God was asking man to proliferate, to fill the earth, to fill the land. The land is yours. And then be a monarch on the land. That was, I think, mistaken by the whole humanity, that we can control and we can boss over everything and we can exploit all the natural resources, land, water, everything. it's a kind of mistaken interpretation. It's a misinterpretation that humanity, as usual, has given to the verse. It simply means that when something is in your custody, when you are given a piece of land, that land is yours, which means you share equal responsibility in protecting it. So it's not just misusing it, but even if it is misused, the responsibility, the onus is on us. The problem with this kind of concept of sustainable development or social value is the first world countries that actually are responsible for the exploitative dynamics, the exploitative nature, especially in the ultra-industrial age, mechanized age. These nations have been continuously haunting the third world and fourth world countries, especially like India, to focus on this kind of a sustainable development or a sustainable growth, sustainable environment. That is the social growth, natural third world countries, in the sense that we are equally responsible for the fall of the planet. What in the introductory remarks, the five major responsibilities involved in maintaining or protecting the development goal. So this kind of throwing the responsibility on the third and fourth world countries is something very irresponsible, because in this kind of an interdisciplinary or what you call a multidisciplinary kind of a conference, where social values and sustainable development, these two key terms or these two key phrases or these two concepts are discussed, we should understand these concepts only in the local context. So my examples will be from the local context. I don't want to bring in how the Norwegian Prime Minister in the United Nations talked about sustainable development and what the first and second world countries are trying to impose on the third and fourth world countries, the concepts of social justice or social values or social ethics and sustainable development. So the very understanding of sustainable development is very simple, because it is defined in multiple ways, but as a whole, I can understand sustainable development as a very simple thing, that we must share the responsibility, or we must have in our mind that when we try to cater to the requirements of the present generation, the resources, the equitable or equal share of sharing of resources, we should have in our mind that when we allot resources, when we allow people to share the resources, when we try to feed somebody with food or anything for that matter, that kind of a distribution of natural resources should not deprive of the future generation of what we have. So this kind of taking care of the future generation, or keeping the future generation in mind, that we should allot or we should use the existing natural resources in such a way that the future generation is not deprived of the same. So this kind of very planned, meticulous sharing of natural resources, meticulous sharing of what we have today, be it not just nature but everything. So the future generation is not supposed to blame it on us, that for the sake of the present generation you have deprived a whole lot of future generation of what you enjoyed. So the privileges we enjoyed, not just air-conditioned rooms, not just recliners, not just watching movies in a mall, not all these pleasures, but when you talk about the concept of sustainable development, people talk necessarily of number one, poverty, because there are many areas like poverty, equal education for all, and food for all, which is part of poverty alleviation program, and number three, protection of environment, and all these things together constitute what you call sustainable development. The focus should be on these areas. And when you talk about protection of environment and all such things, I always believe that this part of protection of environment or environmental rights, or how to preserve our surroundings, our immediate surroundings, how to preserve our flora, fauna, and all other things. These things will be properly taken care of by the advanced countries. One area which doesn't invite our attraction, doesn't get into the minds of the intellectuals or the academic arena, is poverty. People, especially the first world nations, are least bothered about any discussion on poverty and education for all. People always talk about protection of environment, throwing the blame on the third and fourth world countries that you should protect your environment, but we will continue to pollute your environment. So this kind of very pollute, the people's movement, they please place and they just or and consumers and Indians comes along engineers and to board between these companies, we take decisions of exactly good that as how they for the kids who are talking that the bottle of the little first one is when you to why the third world and fourth world is why the most pain comes up with the six dollar than others. College students, to pick up like but the state international corporations pollute whether and humanity. Why is to get back? Don't tell it. Say many more, but take plus. Yes, nothing. One is where the words is non-power. That's on the assembly. Unless the precise or non-power, that is for this value. The world framework we have in our Dravidian model. Like a dog, they bark, Dravidian model. I tell you, we just on poverty, the program of the whole set of suggestions which Amartya Sen makes was there in the University of Madras. 1923, can you imagine? 1923, the first ever presidency on the whole of the imaginary Indian homeland. Right, the presidency of Madras came out with a theme, what is today as meet meal. 1923, the Justice Party, distributed free in the municipal schools across Madras presidency. Why? Sustainable development. The stomach should be full, and then the mind can be filled. A hungry stomach, a hungry child cannot get out the teacher cries in the classroom. Like when a pure literature teacher comes and speaks in a conference on social values and sustainable development, the lines of John Keats, my heart aches, and the drowsy numbness pains my sense, all these things. Then the set of lines will say that what this fellow, he would have taken some very bad stuff last evening, that's why your head is reeling. Otherwise, this fellow must be suffering from spondylitis, that is why his head is reeling. Better consult a physician and get your problem solved. It's this kind of shift from what we considered as sacred, pristine literature to something that is very interdisciplinary, something that is very socially conscious, that is more important, that is the need of the hour. So when you have some 4 or 5 important things to focus on, like poverty, education, environment, justice, economy, all these things, the primary concern should be on poverty, because the other things have been at times discussed in academics. One big thing which lacks this kind of a focus and which requires important attention is Amartya Sen. That thing himself acknowledges in many pages that he borrowed several from the Dravidian model. Free noon meal scheme in 23 Justice Party, which was again done by Kamraj in 1955. Later, NGR sat on the floor with the school children and dined. Jayalalitha also followed it. Karunanidhi followed it. All these people. And the most revolutionary thing in this kind of a noon meal scheme is the introduction of a non-vegetarian item in this kind of a school program, which is the most revolutionary. The introduction in the noon meal scheme. An egg. Can you just imagine, in a country which treats non-vegetarian food as a cannibalistic metaphor, egg was for school children and a part of their social welfare program. That is why the whole nation hates the Dravidian model, which we take in. I'm not a Dravidian ideologue. I talk about sustainable development. We cannot just the things which we had, which the first world nations are asking us to do. We should tell the first world nation that we have done it right almost 100 years back. We did it. In 1990, you are talking about it and getting an award. Not only this, so many ways the sustainable is very, very, very rich. The concept of social value, the concept of sustainable development is very rich in our part. Why this kind of a poverty alleviation program was introduced in Tamil Nadu for the first time? The problem lies at the state. I'm not completely justifying the regime. I'm also talking about the negative aspects of it, because the program to noon scheme for the school going emerged out of the situation that children cannot get education, they are not provided with food, because like K. Gunasekaran in his The Scar, the autobiography, with a set of school going children as a boy, he was going to his school, 8 kilometers he needs to walk, and he picks up tamarind that falls from the trees, on the roadside trees, and he picks up the seeds of the tamarind, eating the tamarind, and the seeds are there, and they boil the tamarind seeds on the roadside using some twigs and other things. That is one reason why all these school-going kids always carry a matchstick box in their pockets, not to smoke, but to cook their breakfast, because they get up and the parents won't be there, they would have gone to the field. And these children, they walk all the way they cook something. The situation demanded the introduction of the noon meal scheme. Not only that, Tamil Nadu, as any state in India, was suffering from what we call feudalism. Every individual owning acres and acres and acres of land. How could be an obstacle for this kind of a sustainable development? Because one who owns the land controls the production And not only production, because production is never a problem of the capitalist. The capitalist problem is consumption. Consumption is the serious, more important problem for the capitalist, not production. Production in any number of Renault pens I can produce. If you ask for 10 pens, I can produce 10,000 pens. I have only 10 consumers, but I can produce only 10,000 pens. The remaining pens are to be marketed. I will do it. I'll catch you. Whether you or not, it will come to you. Not like that. With a pack of food, with 1 kilogram of paddy, you can control a whole generation. If I am a producer of 100 tons of paddy and 100 laborers working in my field, I control the whole generation. You would have seen when after 2 more vessels of rice, the zamindar used mercenaries to burn 46 landless laborers. Why? Not because they are vessels of rice, 2 more not of rice, no. The audacity more. That challenges my head. That challenges my power to distribute food. I have the monopolized right to distribute paddy to the producers. If that was questioned, I'll kill you. That of keeping people in perennial poverty, keeping people to ever oblige you. As long as they are poor, they will oblige you. Compelled to work under you. They are compelled to work in your fields. What happened? The government again came, like the production scheme, to fight the hunger of children. The government identified people who were holding acres and acres of land. Those lands were taken and distributed to landless people. What happened? Again, the second obstacle for sustainable development. All these zamindars, landed gentry, leave their land just like that. I don't know how many of you know the history of this belt, the Kongu belt, the Namakkal, Erodes, being the place of what you call the elite education. These elite education centers were products of the loss of this kind of a thing. The government of India took over lands from people who had excess lands. Who was doing when the government did it that you can acres, 100 acres can people given something 10 cents. All these zamindars converted their agrarian lands or vacant lands into educational institutions. And polytechnics, starting trust. That was the pure trust. They are not to give away their lands to people who have been in their fields for nearly 2 generations. They retained it by starting trust, starting a school, which is a commercial side. Number 1, they retained their land. They were not ready to distribute that land. Distribution of land means distribution. The monopoly of distribution of food. One won't wait to get one more rice. He'll work in his own land, he'll eat and nobody will feed. You need this. So they retained them. They also retained their tax. One who was called Ayya, Kalvi Tandegal. In every part of the state, you have Tandai.